If you are looking for good value active noise cancelling headphones, there are a lot out there. We've got a four-way today. The one more SonoFlow, the Edifier W820NB, the Cleer Enduro ANC, and the brand spanking new KZ H10. Goedendag, we're DHRME, dreamy, handsome, rugged musical enthusiasts. Now before we get started, for the purpose of this video, our criteria is basically active noise cancelling headphones around the $100 range.
And at this price, you would not really be expecting high quality materials like leather and metal, but you'd be so very wrong. Okay, just a little wrong. We'll get to the most premium built headphones later. What you can just about expect on the other headphones is decent quality plastic, and looking at the cheapest of the bunch, the Edifier, well, I'm sorry, but you don't even really get that. It's got some of the most magnificent creaking we've ever heard on audio products, and we have dealt with quite a few cheap builds. At about $70, this is definitely showing its price. You know, like with my old age and creaky bones. The Edifier is also not foldable, and the buttons feel very cheap and loud and have this clackety quality to them. And as though that's not enough, you don't get any kind of case with these headphones, so it's clear that corners have been cut. Oh yeah, and there's no way to use the Edifier wired, no headphone jack slot. Just a USB-C one for charging. The Enduro ANC has the most pronounced buttons for play and ANC, and even while wearing oversized winter gloves, we were able to hit those buttons, so it's clearly the best on that front. The Cleer comes only with a soft pouch, and it distinguishes itself with not only a 3.5mm and USB cable, but also the airplane adapter in the box. It's not a big deal, just take a train instead. When we reviewed the one more SonoFlow, we said that the build quality wasn't great, but it's almost the best of the four. You also get a hard shell case. But the winner in our books is the KZ H10. It looks and feels the most premium. It comes with a metal headband. There's no creak whatsoever, but the black plastic on the ear cups do attract fingerprints and oil stains. The headphones don't fold, and the buttons are a little on the little side, but they have enough elevation and separation that they're easy to find based on feel. The buttons have a satisfying click to them too. You get a solid hard shell case with a USB-C and a 3.5mm audio cable and no airplane adapter.
And whether it's planes or trains or just wanting to stay sane, noise cancelling can help you with those things. Take a listen for yourself. Here the Edifier is surprisingly good. For such an old device, it's still the best on this list when it comes to cutting out sound, especially at the low end. KZ also does a shockingly good job at cutting out sound. There's a major caveat though. Due to its on-ear, in-ear kind of design, the slightest movement completely kills the ANC effect. You could be in complete silence, then you move your head a little bit and BAM! The ANC is completely gone, the illusion is completely killed. It's a real shame that the design has let it down, because if you're sitting still, the ANC is actually pretty damn good. The one more is also in the good category, but it's slightly worse than these two. And then there's the Cleer. Well, let's just say don't buy them for noise cancelling. The performance is pretty ordinary. However, when we switch to transparency mode, that story flips. The Cleer is better than the Edifier and the one more. I was able to have a short conversation about how I wanted my panini grilled, and even though it was noisy around, the person was generally able to understand me, and I was able to understand them. So I guess you could say that the voices were clear. Now the Edifier is also pretty clear, but the volume is a little bit lower than the other two. There's a difference though. The SonoFlow does transparency well, but scoops out the low end, so you're only left with the voices and higher frequencies. Maybe in some situations this works, but we don't really like this approach because it also amplifies things like coffee machines and drills unnaturally. And when it comes to the KZ's ambient mode, it's really weird. In addition to the head moving affecting the ambient mode as well, it sounds rather muffled on the higher frequencies, and we just prefer to use it without the ambient mode altogether.
All of these features are only worth it if you can bear to keep the headphones on. Let's talk about comfort. Despite the lack of premium leather, the One More ranks the highest of the four for us. The sufficient padding on the headband, comfortable clamping force, no creak, and suppleness of the ear pads make them the best on the list. Next is the Edifier. It's less soft and flexible compared to the One More, but the ear pads are comfortable and definitely more comfortable on the crown compared to the Cleer. You're going to have to endure rather than enjoy the Cleer. For us, the headband pressed down on the crown and the cups were a little less roomy. Then we've got the KZ H10. The faux leather on the ear pads and headband is plush, but there's very little padding on the ear cups. The clamp is a bit tight, but maybe it will loosen over time. But in combination with the shallower ear cups that press up against your pinnae, these quickly become the least comfortable on this list.
From the hardware to the software, and here the One More's really the best. You can enable dual device connection, there's an EQ, burn-in, a bunch of options that you can customize. The Cleer app is more bare bones, but offers you an ANC transparency slider as well as EQ presets, as well as a 5-band EQ. The infamous Edifier Connect app has pretty much zero customization in the app. You get an ANC transparency toggle and a gaming mode toggle, and that's it, but you can just use your buttons for that just as well. Edifier's app also is the most annoying of the bunch. Too much marketing material, too many privacy question marks. But KZ takes the no app, no problems approach. It keeps things simple, since what you see is what you get. No app to be used, but maybe that won't sell you tweakers out there.
Would we recommend any of these for phone calls? Well, it would be too easy if we gave you the answer straight away. So go ahead and listen to some samples first. If you're still undecided, we'll give you the lowdown after.
One More SonoFlow, noisy conditions. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Cleer Enduro ANC in noisy conditions. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Now we have the Edifier W820 in noisy conditions with cars passing by in the background. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing. And the KZ H10 in noisy conditions. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Alright, we're going to try to see if there's any wind here with this wind meter as well. There's the One More SonoFlow in windy conditions. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, 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 1, 2, 3. Okay, the wind has picked up a little bit. This is what it is right now. This is the Enduro ANC from Cleer in slightly breezy or windy conditions, and it's cold. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Okay, this is the Edifier W820 in slightly breezy or windy conditions. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Okay, it's a pretty windy day. This is the KZ H10 in windy conditions. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3.
Okay, we're not going to lie, the Edifier shocked the pants off of us. The cheapest on the list kicked ass, especially in the windy conditions. It took it like a champ, and you barely hear the wind and the voice is undeterred. The next best in windy conditions is the One More SonoFlow, and the voice remains clear, but you just hear a bit more of the wind compared to the Edifier. The KZ was actually tested a bit after, and it had much windier conditions, so we actually gave props to the KZ as well. It did quite well. And then the Cleer. It isn't terrible and can be easily used in a pinch, but compared to the others, it pipes in the most amount of wind noise. In noisy conditions, you notice the heavy noise cancelling on the edifiers, which results in the voice cutting out at times, especially when speaking softly. The One More SonoFlow has its own problems with the background noise being more audible, and the voice sounds like it's coming from afar and slightly processed too. And the Cleer also isn't perfect with a lot of the background noise being audible. But despite that, the voice remains the most clear and loud. So for that reason, the Cleer edges out by a hair or two. The KZ was also pretty decent compared to the rest in the list, and we can see ourselves using it for calls.
And a fuckman needs not just great calls, but also to be in control of those calls. Well, you can answer, hang up, and decline calls on all of these. Volume control works on calls, but ANC control works on all of these headphones except for the KZ. And that's where the fuckmoney stops. The SonoFlow lets you switch calls to the phone with a double click, but other than that, there's nothing. No mute controls, for example.
So how much juice is in these cans? The bottom of the barrel is the KZ with a mere 25 hours with ANC on. Not too far off is the Edifier with 29 hours with ANC on. We exaggerate, 25 or 29 is plenty for most people, but on paper it pales in comparison to the other two. Next up is the One More, giving you 50 hours of use with ANC on. And the stamina awards go to the Cleer for a whopping 60 hours with ANC on. Not that the ANC is any good. Maybe that's why you get more battery life. Fast charging. The Cleer also does support fast charging. 10 minutes gets you 2 hours of use. The One More tops that with 5 minutes giving you 5 hours. But if you're not in a rush, then the Edifier and the KZ support normal charging.
And yes, normal can sometimes be boring. That is definitely the case for the Edifier and the KZ in the Multipoint department. They don't support it, so take it easy, one device at a time. You can't pull the connection from a previously paired device either, so you'll need to enter pairing mode every time you feel like using another device. The third best or worst is the Cleer. It can connect to 2 devices at once, but it had some issues in our testing. The audio kept cutting out sometimes when it was connected to an iPhone and Android phone. It appears that the first device you connect to has priority, and playing audio from the second device causes the audio skipping issue. And the One More was again the best of the lot and had no issues with staying connected to 2 devices, even though it's listed as an experimental feature. Go figure.
Edifier might have taken a beating on Multipoint, but gets multi-point when it comes to sound, and same for the KZ. The Edifier sounds good and has an easy, fun tuning, and we really enjoyed it out of the box, but it does have some flaws. It isn't the most resolving, and the treble is a bit thin and lacking detail. Funnily enough, the website states Edifier supports the SBC codec only, but maybe because you have a slightly older model, it plays it over ASC. Overall, I thought they were very musical, and even though they don't sound very hi-fi, it's one of those sound signatures that works across genres surprisingly well. But buyer beware, you get what you get. No EQ tweaks. And speaking of EQ tweaks, the SonoFlow has the most things on paper. LDAC support, custom 10-band EQ, EQ presets. You can even see what the EQ presets exactly do. And all this was added over the air via a software update after the One More was released. However, the Cleer tries to catch up with its aptX adaptive support, similarly sized 40mm drivers, and a 5-band EQ in the app. The Cleer does slam harder on the bass, especially the mid bass out of the box, and you may or may not like that. That elevated mid bass can sometimes bleed into the mids, but again with the EQ that's something you can adjust. It also seems to have a wider soundstage than the One More. And then there's the KZ. This is a completely different beast from the rest. Another set with 40mm drivers, but this is the most audiophile of the bunch here. The sound signature isn't warm and bassy, but mid-forward. It's ironically the clearest of the bunch. Sub-bass is lacking, mid-bass is a bit recessed too, so EDM and hip-hop are not going to be the strong suits for these cans. But you get crystal clear mids and treble without being too sibilant, but treble-heavy tracks can tend to be fatiguing. Also, the timbre doesn't really sound very natural because it's so mid and treble focused, and the treble can come across a bit thin at times as well. You're going to suffer the same problems with this as with the ANC, as with the transparency. If you don't get a good fit, or if your head is moving, that is going to affect the sound, especially the bass performance. But damn, these sound good at this price. I'd say easily the best of this bunch, but your bass heads won't agree, of course. These are very light on bass. And if you want to use any of these wired, by far the KZ is the best sounding of this group wired. So guys, which one is it? Well, all headphones here are surprisingly good sounding for the price. The KZ has some solid strengths and is the most balanced of the bunch if that's what you're looking for. But from the other three, we're finding it very hard to pick a clear winner. But given that the One More is newer, supports LDAC, and has more tweakable EQ, we would just recommend it to most people. It didn't sound the best to our ears, but it gives you the most options. But we found ourselves reaching for the Edifier since it was very well tuned and the timbre sounds so much better on rock and metal tracks. It lacks that extra bit of resolution but still does remarkably well for what it is. The Cleer is also good and has plenty of customization to go around. And compared to the Edifier, it has that 5-band EQ. So these are 3 different headphones with their own strengths and weaknesses, and we think all of them sound decent for the price.
The Edifier and the KZ are kind of opposites in many ways. One has comically creaky build, an insanely good ANC and microphone performance. The other has a surprisingly premium build, but are also similar in the sense that they sound good and have pretty much next to no customization. Also, knowing Edifier, there might be something new coming around the corner. So maybe skip on the Edifier for now? The KZ is excellent value for money with that stylish build and really hi-fi sound. However, the on-ear design affects its performance on ANC and sound too. So these are a better choice if you'll be sitting still most of the time as against being very active with these. Have you ever had a random uncle ask you for good noise cancelling headphones for casual use? Well, the One More SonoFlow passes the uncle test. A great balance of performance and features. Dual device that works, a good customizable app, and good sound quality. What else could an uncle ask for? The Cleer has better battery life, easier to hit buttons, a good transparency mode, and that punchy bass, but it doesn't really offer anything that the One More doesn't. And it does not even exceed the Edifier's performance on a few aspects. So overall, while we can't recommend it over the One More, we must say that it's still a very good product, and the most expensive on this list. So that's it guys, hope you guys had fun. Do subscribe, like, and do all the YouTube things. You've been cheaping out, and we've been DHRME. Namaste.